Okay, now that you've got your slices set up, we're going to save this Photoshop file again. So I'm going to save it as, and then instead of guides, just call it slices. We save each one of these steps just so we can always go back and change something at any one of the levels that we went through. It just saves us time in the end usually. So I'm going to save that file. And then we want to first create a folder here. This is where all of our files are in the folder that you've downloaded from Carmen. In here we're going to make a new folder. Control click on the folder and say new folder. And then I'm just going to call it root because this is our root folder for our website now. And this is where you're going to store all your HTML and image files for the website. So we've made the folder, and once you do that, go back to your Photoshop file and say save for web and devices. This, as you'll see, keeps your slices in here, and it's going to optimize the images for web purposes. For the purpose of this tutorial, just choose JPEG High as your option. If you want to see detail of what each one of these is doing, you can go in here to 2-up and see kind of what difference JPEG High, JPEG Low, etc. make. But you want to choose JPEG High. Once that's selected, hit Save. And this window is going to be very important. So go back and find your folder. Mine's on my desktop in here, the root folder. This first format you're going to want to change to HTML and images. That's going to create an actual HTML file as well as your sliced images that you've just made in Photoshop. So we're going to call this file index because we want it to be the first file that opens when someone goes to our website. Default settings is fine, and then down here all slices to make sure that that is selected for this first save. So once you have all those set, you can hit save. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this Photoshop file for now, and then if we go into our folder, you'll see that it put a HTML file and an images folder that has all of your sliced images from your layout. So now we're ready to open these in Dreamweaver. So go ahead and open this index file in Dreamweaver, and you'll see it's all here. If you click on each one of these sections, you'll see that they're here just like you set them up in Photoshop. The first thing we'll want to do when we're working in Dreamweaver is to change the site settings so that over here in the bottom right hand corner you can access the files for your site, so you can move things around in there. So we'll say manage sites to get a new one started. So set a new site. We'll just call this tutorial site, and find your folder where all your files are. Mine's on my desktop in the root folder. You want to choose this root folder as the one that it's pulling from, so go ahead and choose that. And you can set your images folder also, not 100% necessary but helpful usually. So just go into your root folder and select the images folder within there, and that's your default images folder. So that's all you need for our purposes. Go ahead and hit OK. Make sure it's selected in your list. We called it tutorial site. It's selected and hit done. And then you'll see that all of your images and your index file are now available to you over here in your file panel. So now that you've got your files all set up in your file panel, we're ready to start editing this HTML file. So Basically what this is now that you've put into Dreamweaver is an HTML file that contains a table with a series of rows and columns that are these sliced images of your website. So if you select at the very edge of this, you'll see that it turns into a red line around there. That's going to select your whole table that we've placed in there. So the first thing we want to do is just set the orientation of how your information is going to sit on your page. So we want our website to be centered on the page. So after you've selected it here, down here in your properties panel, there's an align option, and we'll set that to center, and that's going to center within your browser window. So then the next step is we want to set our background color of the page. So if your background is white, then you can just leave it white. That's the default. But we'll want ours to be this light green color. So to do that, you can do it a couple different ways, but the way we're going to do it is by going up to Modify, Page Properties, and these are all the page properties for your whole site. So you can set in here the background color, the default text colors, link colors, what your links look like when they're loaded on the page, are they underlined, that kind of thing. All we're going to do is just set the background color. So if you choose that area right next to the background color, it gives you a little eyedropper, and you can drag it over onto this light green and select that. You can hit apply just to make sure it does it, and you see that it does, so you can go ahead and hit OK. And that gives us that seamless effect that the information is kind of floating on the page. So that's how you set the background color. The next step will be inserting a rollover link into your HTML file. So if you move to the third video, that's what we'll cover last in this tutorial.